Hello everyone, how are you feeling? Tonight, we're going to hear a magical story of Cinderella, a kind girl whose life changes with a little help from a fairy godmother. Get cozy, close your eyes, and let's step into a world where pumpkins turn into carriages and dreams come true. Cinderella. Once upon a time, there was a young girl called Cinderella. She lived with her father and two stepsisters. While her stepsisters spent their time buying pretty new clothes and going to parties, Cinderella wore old, ragged clothes and had to do all the hard work in the house. The two sisters were selfish, unkind girls, which showed in their faces. Even wearing their fine clothes, they never looked as sweet and pretty as Cinderella. One day, a royal messenger came to announce that there was to be a grand ball at the king's palace. The ball was in honor of the prince, the king's only son. Cinderella's sisters were both excited. The prince was very handsome, and he had not yet found a bride. When the evening of the ball arrived, Cinderella had to help her sisters get ready. "Fetch my gloves!" cried one sister. "Where are my jewels?" shrieked the other. They didn't think for a minute that Cinderella might like to go to the ball. When her sisters had driven off in their fine carriage, Cinderella sat all by herself and cried bitterly. "Why are you crying, my dear?" said a voice. Cinderella looked up and was amazed to see her fairy godmother smiling down at her. "I wish I could go to the ball and meet the prince," Cinderella said, wiping away her tears. "Then you shall," laughed her fairy godmother. "But you must do exactly as I say." "Oh, I will," promised Cinderella. "Then go into the garden and fetch the biggest pumpkin you can find," said the fairy. So, Cinderella found an enormous pumpkin and brought it into her fairy godmother. With a wave of her magic wand, the fairy changed the pumpkin into a wonderful golden coach. "Now bring me 6 white mice from the kitchen," the godmother said. Cinderella did as she was told. Waving her wand again, the fairy godmother changed the mice into 6 gleaming white horses to pull the coach. Cinderella rubbed her eyes in amazement. Then Cinderella looked down at her old ragged clothes. "Oh dear," she sighed. "How can I go to the ball in this old dress?" For the 3rd time, her godmother waved her magic wand. In a trice, Cinderella was wearing a lovely white ball gown trimmed with blue silk ribbons. There were jewels in her hair, and on her feet were dainty glass dancing slippers. "Now off you go," said her fairy godmother, smiling. "Just remember one thing. The magic only lasts until midnight." So Cinderella went off to the ball in her sparkling golden coach. In the royal palace, everyone was enchanted by the beautiful girl in the white and blue dress. "Who is she?" they whispered. The prince thought Cinderella was the loveliest girl he had ever seen. "May I have the honor of this dance?" he asked, bowing low. All the other girls were jealous of the mysterious stranger. Cinderella danced with the prince all evening. She forgot her fairy godmother's warning until dong, dong, dong. The clock began to strike midnight. Dong, dong, Dong! Cinderella ran from the ballroom without a word. Dong! Dong! In her hurry, she lost one of her glass slippers. Dong! Dong! The prince ran out just as the lovely girl slipped out of sight. I don't even know her name, he sighed. When Cinderella's sisters arrived home from the ball, they could talk of nothing but the beautiful girl who had danced with the prince all evening. You can't imagine how annoying it was, they cried. After the wretched girl left in such a hurry, he wouldn't dance at all. Cinderella hardly heard their complaining. Her head and her heart were whirling with memories of the handsome prince who had held her in his arms. Meanwhile, the prince was determined to find the mysterious beauty who had stolen his heart. The glass slipper was the only clue he had. The girl whose foot will fit this slipper shall be my wife, he said. So the prince set out to search the kingdom for his bride. A royal messenger carried the slipper on a silk cushion. Every girl in the land wanted to try on the slipper, but although many tried, the slipper was always too small and too dainty. At last, Prince came to Cinderella's house. Each ugly sister in turn tried to squeeze her foot into an elegant slipper, but it was no use. Their feet were far too big and clumsy. Do you have any other daughters? The prince asked Cinderella's father. One more, he replied. Oh no, cried the sisters. She is much too busy in the kitchen. But the prince insisted that all the sisters must try the slipper. Cinderella hung her head in shame. She did not want the prince to see her in her old clothes. But she sat down and tried on the dainty slipper. Of course, it fitted her perfectly. The prince looked at Cinderella's sweet face and recognized the girl he had danced with. It is you, he said. Please be my bride, and we shall never be parted again. How happy Cinderella was! Her fairy godmother appeared, and waving her magic wand, dressed Cinderella in a gown fit for a prince. Then the prince led Cinderella home to the royal palace. Cinderella and her prince were married at the most magnificent wedding that anyone would remember. Kings and queens from many lands came to meet the new princess and wish her well. Even Cinderella's sister had to agree that she was the loveliest bride they have ever seen. And Cinderella and her prince lived happily ever after. The Gingerbread Man. Once upon a time, a little old woman and a little old man lived by themselves in a little old house by the side of a road. One day, the little old woman decided to make a special treat. I will make a gingerbread man, she said. So the little old woman made a gingerbread man and put him in the oven to bake. But before long, she heard a tiny voice calling, Let me out! Let me out! The little old woman went to the oven to listen. Then she opened the oven door. The gingerbread man jumped right out. He skipped across the chicken and ran straight outside. The little gingerbread man was on his way down the road before the little old woman and the little old man were out of the house. They couldn't run nearly as fast as he could. Stop! We want to eat you! Stop, little gingerbread man! They cried, quite out of breath. But the gingerbread man just sang, Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man. Soon, the gingerbread man met a cow. Stop, little man, mooed the cow. You look very good to eat. But the gingerbread man just ran faster, and he sang, Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I am the gingerbread man. The cow ran and ran, but she could not catch the little gingerbread man. Further down the road, the gingerbread man met a horse. Stop, little man, said the horse. You look very good to eat, and I am hungry. But the gingerbread man just ran faster. The horse galloped and galloped as fast as he could, but he wasn't fast enough to catch the gingerbread man. I have run away from an old woman, an old man, and a cow, cried the gingerbread man, and he sang as he ran. Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I am the gingerbread man. The little gingerbread man ran and ran on, going faster and faster. He was very proud of his running and quite pleased with himself. At last, he met a sly old fox. Stop, stop, little man, said the fox, grinning and licking his lips. I want to talk to you. But the gingerbread man didn't stop to listen. He just sang. Run, run as fast as you can. You can't catch me. I am the gingerbread man. The cunning old fox could run very fast indeed, and he ran faster the gingerbread man. He followed him all the way down the path through the forest. Before too long, they came to a river. The gingerbread man didn't know what to do. The cunning old fox wasn't far away. I will help you, he said, smiling to himself. If you jump onto my tail, I will take you across. You will be quite safe and dry. So the little gingerbread man jumped onto the fox's tail, and the fox began to swim across the river. Very soon the fox said, You are too heavy for my tail. Jump onto my back. The little gingerbread man jumped onto the fox's back. Very soon the fox said, Little gingerbread man, you are too heavy for my back. Why don't you jump onto my nose? And the little gingerbread man jumped onto the fox's nose. Finally, they reached the other side of the river. The fox threw back his head and tossed the gingerbread man high in the air. Then down fell the gingerbread man, and snap went the old fox. And that was the end of the little gingerbread man. Jack and the Beanstalk. Once upon a time, a boy named Jack lived with his mother. All they had in the world was one cow. One day, Jack's mother said, We have no money for food. We shall have to sell the cow. So Jack took the cow to market. On the way, he met a man. If you give me your cow, said the man, I'll give you some magic beans that are better than money. Jack thought the magic beans sounded wonderful, so he gave the man the cow. Then he ran home as fast as he could. How much money did you get for the cow? Asked his mother. I got something much better than money, said Jack, showing her the magic beans. These beans are no good to us, cried his mother angrily, and she threw them out of the window. When Jack woke up the next day, his room seemed darker than usual. He went to the window and saw that a huge beanstalk had grown up in the garden overnight. I must find out what's at the top, he cried, rushing outside, and he began to climb the beanstalk. Up and up he climbed. At last he found himself in a bare, rocky wilderness. There were no plants or animals to be seen anywhere, but a long road led into the distance, and Jack began to walk along it. Towards evening, he came to a castle and knocked loudly on the door. "Could you give me some food and a bed for the night, please?" Jack asked the woman who answered. "Oh no," said the woman. "My husband is a fierce giant who hates strangers." But Jack begged so hard that she let him in and gave him some supper. Just as Jack was enjoying some hot soup, he heard the giant coming. The woman quickly hid Jack in a cupboard. The giant stalked in and roared, "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." "Nonsense," said his wife. "There's no one here." And she gave the giant his supper. When he had finished his supper, the giant bellowed, "Bring me my hen." His wife brought a little hen and put it on the table. "Lay!" shouted the giant. Jack peeped out of his hiding place. To his amazement, every time the giant shouted, the hen laid a little golden egg. When he had 12 golden eggs, the giant fell asleep. As soon as all was quiet, Jack crept out of the cupboard, grabbed the little hen, and tiptoed out. Then he ran and ran until he was back at the top of the beanstalk. Quickly, he climbed down and took the magic hen to his mother. How pleased she was! "Long ago, a wicked giant stole this hen from your father," she said. "Now that we have her back, our worries are over." Jack lived happily with his mother for a while, but he longed for adventure. And one day, he decided to climb the beanstalk again. Just as before, Jack reached the castle towards evening. And once again, the giant's wife hid him when they heard the giant roar. "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." After supper, the giant shouted, "Fetch me my money bags." His wife brought him some sacks filled with gold coins. The giant emptied the sacks onto the table and counted the coins over and over again. At last, he put the money back in the sacks and fell asleep. Quick as a flash, Jack took the money and ran all the way home. His mother was delighted when she saw the money bags. "The giant stole this money from your father," she said. "You have done well to bring it back." Although Jack and his mother were now rich, Jack wanted to climb the beanstalk one last time. Everything happened just as before. This time the giant's wife brought a beautiful golden harp. "Play!" roared the giant, and the harp began to play soft music. The music was so gentle that it sent the giant to sleep. But when Jack crept out and seized it, the harp cried, "Master! Master!" The giant woke up in a rage just in time to see Jack disappearing through the door with the harp. "Stop, thief!" the giant roared. Now Jack had to run for his life. The giant took huge strides and was soon hard on Jack's heels, scrambling down the beanstalk. Jack shouted as loudly as he could, "Mother, mother, bring the axe!" When Jack's mother brought the axe, Jack seized it with both hands and aimed a mighty blow at the beanstalk. Thwack! the beanstalk toppled to the ground and the giant tumbled down with an earth-shaking thud. So, that was the end of the giant. Jack and his mother were never poor again, and they both live happily ever after. So I will start from Hansel and Gretel. Once upon a time, a boy called Hansel and his sister Gretel lived with their father and stepmother in a cottage near a forest. They were so poor that they sometimes did not have enough to eat. One day, the children heard their stepmother say to their father, "Tomorrow, we must take the children deep into the forest and leave them there. Otherwise, we shall starve." Gretel was frightened, but Hansel had a plan. That night, when everyone was asleep, he crept outside and filled his pockets with shiny white pebbles. The next morning, when the family went into the forest, Hansel walked more slowly than the others. When no one was looking, he dropped his pebbles along the path. As soon as they were deep in the forest, their stepmother left the children by themselves, telling them to wait until someone came to fetch them. They waited until it grew dark, but no one came. At last, the moon rose. Hansel showed Gretel the pebbles he had dropped. They shone white in the moonlight and showed the children the way home. When the tired, hungry children arrived back at the cottage, their father was very glad to see them. But their stepmother was angry. Next day, she told the woodcutter that they would have to take the children into the forest again. "And this time, we must see that they can't find their way home." That night, when everyone was asleep, Hansel got up to collect some pebbles again. But his stepmother had locked the door and hidden the key. Hansel could not go out. In the morning, before they all set off, their stepmother gave the two children a small piece of bread each for their lunch. They hadn't gone very far before Hansel began to walk more slowly than the others. "Why are you so slow?" his stepmother shouted, looking back at him. "Hurry up!" "I'm only saying goodbye to my friends, the birds," said Hansel, but he was really stopping to drop breadcrumbs along the path. When they had gone deep into the forest, the woodcutter lit a small fire for his children. Sadly, he told them to wait beside it until someone came to fetch them. The children waited until it grew dark, but no one came. When the moon rose, Hansel and Gretel looked for the trail of breadcrumbs to lead them home. But there wasn't a single crumb to be seen. The birds had eaten them all. The children tried to find their way out of the forest, but they didn't know which path to take. They were completely lost. Hansel and Gretel were tired and frightened and very, very hungry. They had no idea where to go or what to do next. Suddenly, Gretel cried, "Hansel, look!" Just ahead of them was a strange little house made of cakes and gingerbreads with a roof of sugary icing. Laughing with pleasure, the children broke off bits of the house and began to eat. Suddenly, the door of the little house creaked open. An old woman looked out. "Hello, children," she said, smiling.
Come inside, and I will give you food and somewhere warm to sleep.
The children went into the house, and she gave them some delicious pancakes and milk. In the back room, there were 2 little beds. Hansel and Gretel were happy to be safe at last with such a kind woman. They didn't know that she was really a wicked witch who liked to eat little children. Next day, the witch put Gretel to work scrubbing the floors. Then she took poor Hansel and locked him in a cage.
I am going to fatten you up and eat you, she crackled. I'm looking forward to that.
Every morning, the witch, who had very poor eyesight, told Hansel to hold out his finger so that she could feel how fat he had grown. But each time, clever Hansel held out a chicken bone instead.
Not nearly fat enough yet,
the witch would mutter. Days went by, and Hansel kept holding out a chicken bone instead of his finger. At last, the witch grew impatient.
I am not waiting any longer. He must be fat enough by now, she said one morning. Today, I'm going to cook Hansel and eat him, Gretel, like the oven.
With tears in her eyes, Gretel did as she was told.
Now, climb in and see if the oven is hot,
the witch ordered. But Gretel was sure that the witch was trying to trick her. I can't climb into the oven, she said.
I am much too big. Of course you can, said the witch angrily. Look, I'll show you.
And she bent down and stuck her head in the oven. Gretel didn't waste a second. She gave the witch a hard push and slammed the door. The witch screamed with rage, but she could not get out. When Gretel was sure the witch was dead, she unlocked Hansel's cage and let her brother out.
We're free, she cried. We can go home now.
But first, Hansel and Gretel searched the witch house from top to bottom. In the attic, they were amazed to find chests full of pearls and rubies and diamonds.
We must take some of these home to father, said Hansel.
As the children set off, Hansel saw a white dove flying high above.
It's one of my friends showing us the way,
he said. Soon, the children saw their own cottage through the trees. Their father was overjoyed to see them.
Your stepmother has gone, and she is never coming back,
he said, hugging the children. When he saw the jewels, the woodcutter couldn't believe his eyes.
We are rich,
he cried, and we shall never be parted again. And they never were. Puss in Boots. Once upon a time, there was a miller who had 3 sons. When the miller died, he left a mule to his eldest son and a donkey to his second son. They were able to set to work straight away. But all that was left for the youngest son was his father's cat. Poor Puss, said the miller's son. How shall we manage?
Don't worry, said the cat. Give me a pair of boots and a bag, and we will do very well together.
When the miller's son brought the things the cat wanted, Puss got ready. He put on his boots and left the bag filled with lettuce leaves in a field. Very soon, a little rabbit came to nibble the lettuce. Quick as a flash, Puss caught the rabbit in his bag and carried it to the king's palace.
Your Majesty, said Puss, please accept this fine rabbit as a present from my master, the Marquis of Carabas.
I've never heard of him, said the king, but you deserve a treat from the kitchen.
The next day, Puss heard that the king and his daughter would be driving by the river.
Master, he said, do what I say, and we shall be rich. You must take off your clothes and swim in the river, and you must believe that your name is the Marquis of Carabas.
I've never heard of him, said the miller's son, but I'll do as you say, Puss. Before long, the king drove past with his daughter, the princess. He was pleased to see Puss again.
Your Majesty,
said Puss, bowing low, a very terrible thing has happened.
My master, the Marquis of Carabas, was swimming in the river when some thieves came and stole all his clothes.
How dreadful!
Exclaimed the king and the princess together. The king sent off to the palace at once for some clothes. When the miller's son put them on, he looked very handsome.
Please come and ride in our carriage, said the king. May I present my daughter?
Puss ran quickly on ahead. When he saw some men making hay in the field, he shouted to them,
The king is coming. If he asks, you must say that this land belongs to the Marquis of Carabas.
We've never heard of him, said the haymakers, but we'll do as you say. Soon, the king drove past in his carriage with the princess and the miller's son.
Tell me, my man, said the king to a haymaker, whose land is this?
It belongs to the Marquis of Carabas, your majesty, the man replied at once. Meanwhile, Puss had found out that the land was really owned by an ogre who lived in a huge castle nearby. Puss quickly made his way to the castle and knocked on the door.
Sir, is it true that you are a very good magician?
He asked the ogre. The ogre, who liked to show off, replied,
Yes, it's true. I can even turn myself into a lion.
Quick as a flash, the ogre became a fierce, roaring lion. Puss was so startled that he scrambled to the top of the chest of drawers to hide. When the ogre had changed himself back again, Puss jumped down.
Turning into a lion must be easy for someone as big and strong as you, he said. But can you turn yourself into something tiny, like a mouse?
Of course I can, roared the ogre. Just watch.
In the blink of an eye, the ogre became a little mouse scurrying across the floor. Puss instantly pounced on him and ate him up.
Now that the ogre is gone, Puss said to himself, this castle will make a very fine home for my master, the Marquis of Carabas.
The king was most impressed by the handsome young man who owned such rich land and lived in such a magnificent castle.
He would make a fine husband for my daughter,
the king said. So the miller's son and the princess and Puss lived happily ever after. And now everyone has heard of the Marquis of Carabas. Arthur's Family Vacation by Mark Brown. It was Arthur's last day of school. Mr. Ratburn gave the class a surprise spelling test. All the other classes were having parties. Finally, the moment you've been all waiting for, said Mr. Ratburn. Report cards and school's out. Everyone cheered.
I can't wait for baseball practice to start, said Francine. I'm taking a college computer course, the brain announced. I'll really miss you at Camp Meadow Rock Oak this year, Arthur, Buster said. I wish I didn't have to go on vacation with my family, said Arthur. There'll be nothing to do and no one to do it with. You'll have DW, Buster said, smiling, for a whole week. Don't remind me, said Arthur. Arthur's family spent that night packing. I wish I could take my dollhouse, said DW. I wish Buster could come, said Arthur. This is a family vacation, said Mother. All we need for fun is each other, said Father. Let's take my swing set, said DW. We can all use that. Well, we are all packed, Father said the next morning. Where's Arthur? He's on the phone with Buster, said Mother. For the 100th time, DW added. Before we leave, said Father, does anyone need to use the bathroom? This is your last chance, said Mother. Don't look at me, said DW. On our way at last, Mother smiled. A whole week of no cooking and no dishes, said Father. A whole week without my best friend in the whole wide world, moaned Arthur. Once you are at the beach, you'll feel better, Father said. Are we there yet? Asked DW. I have to go to the bathroom. Arthur spent the rest of the trip thinking about how much fun Buster must be having at camp. We're here, said Mother. Welcome to the ocean view, said the manager. Where's the ocean? Asked Father. Just across the highway behind the shopping center. The manager pointed. But there's a pool right here. Well, I guess I'll go swimming, said Arthur. Me too, said DW. Wait for me. Let's see our room first, said Mother. You mean we all have to stay at this puny little room? Asked DW. Don't worry, we'll only be sleeping here. If you want to swim, said Arthur, hurry up and get your suit on. We have the whole pool to ourselves, said Arthur. It's a good thing too, said DW. Our bathtub is bigger than this. The night at dinner, everyone ordered lobster. Buster loves lobster, said Arthur. This is lobster, said DW. I want a hot dog. Can we go to the beach tomorrow? Arthur asked. Good idea, said Father. I'm sure the rain will stop by then. No beach today, DW announced the next morning. I had a dream about Buster, said Arthur. Why don't you write him a postcard? Mother suggested. Why don't you all write postcards? Why don't we all write postcard? Said Father. But what do we write about? Said DW. We haven't done anything yet. What do we do now? This vacation is a disaster. At camp, there is always something fun to do, thought Arthur, even on rainy days. That's it, he said. I'm taking us on a field trip. I never heard of a cow festival, DW said, but at least it's more fun than our motel room. Say cheese, said Father. Let's hurry or we'll miss the milking contest, said Arthur. For the next few days, it rained and rained, but Arthur didn't mind. He was too busy planning new places to go. He forgot about missing Buster. On Wednesday, they went to Gatorville. At least the alligators get to swim, said DW. Thursday was busy too. After touring Floss Fudge Factory, they all went on Jimmy's Jungle Cruise. I never realized there are so many fun things to do in the rain, said Father. I want to plan a field trip too, said DW, to the movies. But when they got there, DW was too scared to watch. I thought it was a movie about fish, she whispered. Finally, on Friday, their last day, the sun came out. "What a day," said father. "Just glorious," said mother. Even DW was having fun. No one wanted to leave, but the next day they packed up and headed home. "We're almost there," said mother. "Phew," said DW. "I really have to go to the bathroom." "Oh boy," said Arthur. "I can't wait to see Buster." As soon as they got home, the doorbell rang. It was Buster. "Camp was fun, but I missed you," he said to Arthur. "How was your vacation? How did you and DW get along?" "Great," said Arthur. "Take a look." "Wow," said Buster. "You really did have a great time."
Listen carefully, class, said Mr. Ratburn. This is a national contest, so do your best work.
"I love contests,"
said Murphy.
"What do I win?"
The winner visits the White House in Washington, said Mr. Ratburn.
"What do we write about?"
asked Arthur. The subject is How I Can Help Make America Great, said Mr. Ratburn. Everyone started writing. Arthur started thinking. He thought about the time he and DW helped old Mrs. Teeple clean her yard. He thought about how much more they could do in the neighborhood if the whole class helped. Then he began to write. Weeks later, when Mr. Henny, the principal, was opening the mail in his hands, began to shake. "It's a letter from the president," he gasped. Miss Tingley, the secretary, fainted. Prunella, who was in the office with a stomach ache, suddenly got better. "Open it!" she shouted. Mr. Henny clicked on the PA system. "Attention, everyone! The President of the United States has written to announce the winner of the How I Can Help Make America Great contest. And the winner is our own Arthur. He and his class are invited to attend a special ceremony at the White House." Mr. Ratburn's class went wild. "Congratulations, Arthur," said Mr. Ratburn. "You will have to work hard to memorize your paper so you can recite it to the president next Wednesday." "Memorize? Recite?" asked Arthur. "Of course," said Mr. Ratburn. "Well, we'll all be there cheering you on."
"You are on TV!" screamed DW when Arthur got home. "Listen." "He will recite his winning essay to the president and all of America," the announcer was saying. "I feel sick," said Arthur. "Not as sick as you will feel when you are giving your speech," said DW. "There's so much to do before we leave," said Mother. "Arthur, you will need a new suit." "What about me?" asked DW. "I need to look beautiful when I meet the president." "The president is very busy," explained Father. "He will only have time to meet Arthur and hear him recite his essay." "If I can remember it," said Arthur. "Of course you can," said Father. "Just relax. Pretend I'm the president and practice right now." The thought of sitting next to the president made Arthur's mind go blank. He said. "Uh-oh," said DW. Monday at school, everyone was busy planning the trip. "Oh boy, no homework for 3 days," said Francine. "Not quite," said Mr. Ratburn. Everyone groaned. "Each of you will have to do a report," he explained. "As we tour Washington on Wednesday, you will be our guides, so get to work. I'll see you all at the airport tomorrow morning." Arthur tried to study his speech on the plane. "Don't forget to mention me to the president for the Teacher of the Year award," Mr. Ratburn reminded him. "Aren't you excited?" asked Buster. "I'm too nervous to be excited," said Arthur. "You need help," said DW. "I will make the speech for you. I have a lot of ideas about how to run the country." That night at the hotel, Arthur was too worried to sleep.
What in the world are you doing? Asked Father. What if I forget my speech and the president laughs at me? Arthur asked. The president would never laugh at you, said Father. Why don't you write your speech on note cards and keep them in your pocket? He suggested, just in case. What a great idea, said Arthur. He felt much better. Now, try not to worry and go to sleep, said Mother. The next morning, everyone met in front of the Jefferson Memorial. Arthur, you look so handsome, said Francine. Ready to meet the president? Said Mr. Rapburn. I guess, said Arthur. He reached into his pocket to make sure the note cards were there. Time for your reports, called Mr. Rapburn. Only 1 more hour until we're due at the White House. Our first stop is the Washington Monument, the tallest building in Washington, explained Francine. 898 steps to the top. Everyone ready?
Are you kidding? Said DW. I'm taking the elevator. This is the Capitol, where Congress makes the nation's laws, said Sue Ellen.
I think we all know how important it is to obey the law, said Mr. Rapburn. The National Museum of Natural History has great mummies, said Buster. Follow me.
No thanks, said Muffy. I'll meet you at the gift shop.
The last stop was the White House.
It is so big, said Arthur. Not as big as Muffy's house, said DW.
The White House has 132 rooms, said the Brian. Every president except George Washington has lived here. It has a barbershop, clinic, indoor pool, theater, gym, and its own library.
And the president's office has fancy gold curtains just like the ones in our living room, said Muffy. Excuse me, said the president's secretary. The president is arriving. Please follow me to Rose Garden.
Arthur gulped. It was almost time. He took out his note cards. Suddenly, a strong wind blew through the garden.
Here comes the president, squealed Muffy. My speech, gasped Arthur.
Relax, said Mr. Rapburn. You'll be fine. DW wasn't so sure. She had a plan. Arthur had never seen so many important-looking people. Good afternoon, Mr. President, he began. When I think about how I can do to make America great, Arthur began to feel very warm. His knees began to shake. His mind went blank. This is the worst day of my life, he thought. Suddenly, Buster giggled. Soon, everyone else joined in. Even the president was laughing. Arthur turned bright red, and when Arthur saw what they were laughing at, he laughed too. Now Arthur felt much better. He recited his whole speech without forgetting a single word. And in conclusion, he said, we can all help making America great by helping others.
Good, said DW. Then help me down.
The Lost Dinosaur Bone by Mercer Mayer. Our class went on a field trip to the Museum of Natural History. I couldn't wait to see the dinosaurs. When I grow up, I'm going to be a dinosaur hunter. But when we got to the museum, the dinosaur exhibit was closed. So we had to see the butterflies instead. The butterflies were fun, but I really wished we could see the dinosaurs. Next, we went to the rainforest. There were lots of trees with monkeys in them.
Ooh, 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 I said to the monkeys.
A guard came running over to see the monkeys too. So I asked him about the dinosaurs. I found out that the exhibit was closed because a triceratops bone was missing. In the hall of gems and minerals, it was very dark, so we had to wear miner hats with lights on them. Tigger went looking for diamonds, but I was busy looking for the missing dinosaur bone.
No luck.
After that, we went to the planetarium, where the ceiling turned into a sky filled with stars. We found out that the planet Mars is covered with dust and that the planet Saturn has rings around it. I kept my eye out for the dinosaur bone, but I didn't see it. On our way to see a meteorite, I asked Miss Kitty if I could get a drink of water. When I found the fountain, I also found something else, the dinosaur exhibit. It had a big sign saying, "Exhibit closed." I went closer and saw a Tyrannosaurus Rex. It was heading right for me. I ran away as fast as I could, and I found myself face to face with a velociraptor. It had its mouth open wide so I could see all its sharp, pointy teeth. The guard told me the exhibit was closed because of the missing dinosaur bone.
I know, I said. I've been looking for it everywhere.
On my way out, I took a wrong turn. That's when I saw something long and white sticking out from under the Ankylosaurus skeleton. It was the missing dinosaur bone. I ran back to tell the guard. He didn't believe me at first. But when I showed the bone to him, he gave me this big smile. Then I told Miss Kitty, and the guard took our whole class to the special place where the scientists who study dinosaur bones works. "Thank you for solving the mystery of the missing Triceratops bone," the scientist told me. The scientists took us on a tour of the dinosaur exhibit. They showed us a Stegosaurus skeleton they had found buried in a mountain. "I'm going to be a dinosaur hunter when I grow up," I said. "You already are," answered the scientist. "You know what I'm going to do tomorrow? Dig for dinosaur bones in my backyard." Just Grandma and Me by Mercer Mayer. We went to the beach, just Grandma and me. I wanted to set up the beach umbrella, but the wind was too strong. I flew my kite instead. I bought hot dogs for Grandma and me, but they fell in the sand, so I washed them off. I found a nice seashell for Grandma, but it was full of crab. I wanted to blow up my seahorse, but I didn't have enough air, so Grandma helped a little. I told Grandma to take me way out in the deep water, but not too far. I put my fins and my mask and showed Grandma how I can snorkel. I dug a hole in the sand for Grandma. Then I covered her up and tickled her toes. I built a sandcastle just for Grandma, but a big wave came. Grandma said that's what happens to sandcastles, and we will build a new one next time. On the way home, Grandma was tired, so I told her I would watch for our stop. We had a good time at the beach. Just Grandma and me. Arthur's Valentine by Mark Brown. Someone was sending Arthur Valentines, and Valentine's Day wasn't until Friday. They were all signed Your Secret Admirer. It was a real mystery. Who was Arthur's secret admirer? It might be Fern. It could be Buster playing a joke, or maybe even Francine. She was always teasing Arthur. Arthur hoped it was the new girl, Sue Ellen. On Wednesday, Arthur found the new Valentine. Apples, bananas, peaches, a pear, with a face like yours. You're lucky, I care, your secret admirer. P.S. In your lunchbox, you will find a treat,
It's just for you, and it's extra sweet.
Arthur hoped it might be chocolate, but at lunch he found this note. Candy is sweet, lemons are sour. I'll be watching you the whole lunch hour. Arthur looked at Sue Ellen. Thursday, everyone made Valentine boxes. Arthur decided to make a special card instead. When everyone mailed their Valentines, Arthur put his card in Sue Ellen's box. Then, when nobody was looking, Arthur hid the Valentines from the secret admirer in his coat pocket. After school, Arthur took off his coat to play soccer and all the Valentines fell out. Everyone laughed. Buster called him Lover Boy. Hey, hot lips, shouted Francine. Arthur laughed when everyone sang, Arthur and his girlfriend sitting in a tree kissing. First comes love, then comes marriage, then comes Arthur with the baby carriage. The next morning, Arthur said he was sick. You don't want to miss the big Valentine's Day party, do you? Asked his mother. Arthur went to school.
Eek! Who sent this mushy Valentine? Said Sue Ellen.
It's signed Arthur, shouted Buster. Everybody laughed. Arthur loves Sue Ellen, everyone sang. After school, Arthur wanted to be alone. On the way home, he climbed up to his treehouse. There he found another Valentine. I love you in London. I love you in Rome. Look in your mailbox when you get home. XOXOXOXO, your secret admirer. Oh, gross, said Arthur, and ran into the house. I believe this is for you, Arthur, said his mother. It's a love letter, said his sister. Arthur went to his room. There was a movie ticket in the card. My love, tomorrow is the day. We meet in row 3. You sit in A, me sit in B, your secret admirer. On the card, Arthur saw a smudge. He looked very closely. Something had been erased. There was F, and then R, and then A. Francine! The next day, Arthur had a plan. He ran to the movies so he wouldn't be late. He found row 3. He sat in seat A. Francine smiled at Arthur. So you're the secret admirer, said Arthur. Good guess. 4 eyes. Close your eyes, said Arthur. I want to give you a kiss. Really? Said Francine. Close your eyes and count to 10. Okay? Said Francine. Arthur, can I open my eyes yet? Said Francine. Arthur? The Lost Dinosaur Bone by Mercer Mayer. Our class went on a field trip to the Museum of Natural History. I couldn't wait to see the dinosaurs. When I grow up, I'm going to be a dinosaur hunter. But when we got to the museum, the dinosaur exhibit was closed. So we had to see the butterflies instead. The butterflies were fun, but I really wished we could see the dinosaurs. Next, we went to the rainforest. There were lots of trees with monkeys in them. I said to the monkeys. A guard came running over to see the monkeys too. So I asked him about the dinosaurs. I found out that the exhibit was closed because a triceratops bone was missing. In the hall of gems and minerals, it was very dark, so we had to wear miner hats with lights on them. Tigger went looking for diamonds, but I was busy looking for the missing dinosaur bone. No luck. After that, we went to the planetarium, where the ceiling turned into a sky filled with stars. We found out that the planet Mars is covered with dust and that the planet Saturn has rings around it. I kept my eye out for the dinosaur bone, but I didn't see it. On our way to see a meteorite, I asked Miss Kitty if I could get a drink of water. When I found the fountain, I also found something else, the dinosaur exhibit. It had a big sign saying, "Exhibit closed." I went closer and saw a Tyrannosaurus Rex. It was heading right for me. I ran away as fast as I could, and I found myself face to face with a velociraptor. It had its mouth open wide so I could see all its sharp, pointy teeth. The guard told me the exhibit was closed because of the missing dinosaur bone. "I know," I said. "I've been looking for it everywhere." On my way out, I took a wrong turn. That's when I saw something long and white sticking out from under the Ankylosaurus skeleton. It was the missing dinosaur bone. I ran back to tell the guard. He didn't believe me at first, but when I showed the bone to him, he gave me this big smile. Then I told Miss Kitty, and the guard took our whole class to the special place where the scientists who study dinosaur bones works. "Thank you for solving the mystery of the missing Triceratops bone," the scientist told me. The scientists took us on a tour of the dinosaur exhibit. They showed us a Stegosaurus skeleton they had found buried in a mountain. "I'm going to be a dinosaur hunter when I grow up," I said. "You already are," answered the scientist. "You know what I'm going to do tomorrow? Dig for dinosaur bones in my backyard." The Elves and the Shoemaker. Once upon a time, there was a poor shoemaker who had no money left to buy food for himself and his wife. When he looked around his shop, he found that all he had was just enough leather to make one pair of shoes. As he carefully cut out the shoes, he wondered sadly if anyone would ever come along to buy them. Then he laid out the leather on his workbench, ready to sew the next day, and went upstairs to bed. In the morning, when he went to his workbench, the shoemaker couldn't believe his eyes. Instead of the leather he had cut out the night before, he saw a pair of fine shoes already made. The shoemaker looked carefully at the shoes. The stitches were small and even, and the shoes had been polished until they shone. He was very puzzled and showed them to his wife. "Who could have made the shoes so perfectly?" Later that day, a rich woman came into the shop to buy some shoes. When the shoemaker showed her the pair he had found on his workbench, the woman smiled. "These are very fine shoes," she said, as she tried them on. "They fit perfectly. I'll give you 5 pieces of silver for them." Now the shoemaker could buy some food, and he could also buy enough leather for 2 pairs of shoes. As before, he cut out the leather and went to bed. Once again, the same thing happened. When the shoemaker went to his workbench next day, there were 2 pairs of fine shoes waiting for him. They were polished so that they glowed in the sunlight, and the stitches were small and even. That afternoon, a rich merchant came into the shop. He liked the shoes so much that he bought both pairs, and he paid the shoemaker well for them. That day, the shoemaker was able to buy enough leather for 4 pairs of shoes. Just as before, he cut out the leather and left it on his workbench overnight. And in the morning, he found 4 fine pairs of shoes there instead. The same thing happened night after night. And day after day, rich people came to buy the shoes. Soon, the shoemaker and his wife were rich too. One evening, not long before Christmas, the shoemaker said to his wife, "Someone has been helping us all this time, sewing the shoes so beautifully, and we still don't know who it is. How can we find out?"
Well, said his wife, why don't we stay up tonight and watch?
So after dinner, they lit the candle and went into the shop. They hid behind the counter and waited to see what would happen. At last, the door opened and in ran two tiny elves dressed in rags. They went straight to the workbench, picked up the leather lying there, and set to work. They sewed and hammered until all the shoes were finished, and they polished every shoe until it shone in the moonlight. Then they ran quickly away. The next morning, the shoemaker said to his wife, "Those elves have been working so hard for us. How can we ever repay them?"
I know, said his wife. Why don't we make them something warm to wear? Their own clothes were thin and torn, and their little feet were bare. I could start by knitting them little caps, and you could make them some shoes.
The shoemaker thought that was a very good idea. That evening, he carefully made 2 pairs of tiny shoes, and his wife knitted 2 little caps. Over the next few days, the shoemaker helped his wife to make all sorts of clothes for the elves. They made some little shirts, trousers, and waistcoats, and finally the shoemaker's wife knitted 2 tiny pairs of socks. By Christmas Eve, everything stood ready in a little pile. The shoemaker's wife fetched some pretty paper and ribbons, and they wrapped each present one by one. The shoemaker was so pleased with the little shoes he had made that he saved them till last and wrapped them up very carefully. Then they put all the presents out on the workbench and hid behind the counter to wait for the elves. In the middle of the night, the elves dashed in, ready to start work. But when they went to the workbench, all they found there was a little pile of presents. The elves looked at each other in surprise. Then they realized that the presents were for them, and they laughed and began to unwrap the packages. When they saw the clothes, they leaped with joy. They took off their ragged things and put on their brand new outfits. Then the elves skipped merrily out of the door, singing, "Oh, what handsome boys we are! We will work on shoes no more." That was the last the shoemaker and his wife saw of the 2 little men. But they never forgot the elves, and they were rich and happy for the rest of their lives. Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. Once upon a time, there were 3 bears who lived in a little house right in the middle of the forest. There was great big father bear, and medium-sized mother bear, and little tiny baby bear. One morning, Mother Bear made a big pot of porridge and put it into 3 bowls for breakfast. But the porridge was much too hot to eat. "We will leave it to cool while we go for our early morning walk," said Mother Bear. "When we come back, it will be just right." So off they went into the forest. Nearby, there lived a very naughty, mischievous little girl. She was called Goldilocks because she had long golden hair. That morning, as she was passing the 3 bears' house, Goldilocks saw that the front door was open. "I'll just have a little peep inside," she said to herself. As soon as she saw the porridge, Naughty Goldilocks rushed over to taste it. I do feel rather hungry, she said. But the porridge in Father Bear's big bowl was still too hot, and the porridge in Mother Bear's medium-sized bowl was lumpy. At last, Goldilocks tried Baby Bear's porridge. It was just right, so she ate up every spoonful. After that, Goldilocks decided that she would like to sit down, but Father Bear's big chair was much too high. Next, she sat in Mother Bear's medium-sized chair. This one is much too hard, she grumbled. At last, she found Baby Bear's tiny chair. It wasn't too high. It wasn't too hard. It was just right. Goldilocks leaned back happily in Baby Bear's chair, but she was far too heavy. With a creak and a crack, the chair fell to pieces. Bump! Goldilocks landed in a heap on the floor. "Oh, really," she said crossly. "I've had such a shock, I shall have to lie down." So Goldilocks went upstairs. She tried Father Bear's big bed, but that was far too hard, and Mother Bear's medium-sized bed was far too soft. "Now this is comfortable," sighed Goldilocks, settling into Baby Bear's little bed, and she fell fast asleep. Before long, the 3 bears arrived home from their walk. "I'm ready for my breakfast right now," said Father Bear. But when he got to the table, he cried out in surprise, "Someone's been eating my porridge." "And someone's been eating my porridge," said Mother Bear. "I wonder why they didn't like it." "They must have liked mine," cried Baby Bear, holding his empty bowl. "Someone's been eating my porridge and they've eaten it all up." "Look," said Father Bear, "someone's been sitting in my chair." "And someone's been sitting in my chair," said Mother Bear. "Someone's been sitting in my chair," sobbed poor little Baby Bear, "and they've broken it to pieces." The 3 bears began to search the house. Upstairs, Father Bear looked around. "Someone's been sleeping in my bed," he said, "and someone's been sleeping in my bed," cried Mother Bear. "Oh, squeak, squeak, Baby Bear. Someone's been sleeping in my bed and she's still here." At the sound of Baby Bear's voice, Goldilocks woke up. The first thing she saw was Father Bear looking very cross. Goldilocks jumped up in fright. She ran down the stairs and out of the house as fast as she could. "I don't think she will trouble us again," said Father Bear, smiling, and she never did. Hello everyone, how are you feeling? Tonight, we're going to hear a magical story of Cinderella, a kind girl whose life changes with a little help from a fairy godmother. Get cozy, close your eyes, and let's step into a world where pumpkins turn into carriages and dreams come true. Cinderella. Once upon a time, there was a young girl called Cinderella. She lived with her father and 2 stepsisters. While her stepsisters spent their time buying pretty new clothes and going to parties, Cinderella wore old, ragged clothes and had to do all the hard work in the house. The 2 sisters were selfish, unkind girls which showed in their faces. Even wearing their fine clothes, they never looked as sweet and pretty as Cinderella. One day, a royal messenger came to announce that there was to be a grand ball at the king's palace. The ball was in honor of the prince, the king's only son. Cinderella's sisters were both excited.
The prince was very handsome, and he had not yet found a bride. When the evening of the ball arrived, Cinderella had to help her sisters get ready.
Fetch my gloves,
cried one sister.
Where are my jewels?
Shrieked the other. They didn't think for a minute that Cinderella might like to go to the ball. When her sisters had driven off in their fine carriage, Cinderella sat all by herself and cried bitterly.
Why are you crying, my dear?
Said a voice. Cinderella looked up and was amazed to see her fairy godmother smiling down at her. I wish I could go to the ball and meet the prince, Cinderella said, wiping away her tears.
Then you shall,
laughed her fairy godmother.
But you must do exactly as I say.
Oh, I will, promised Cinderella.
Then go into the garden and fetch the biggest pumpkin you can find,
said the fairy. So, Cinderella found an enormous pumpkin and brought it into her fairy godmother. With a wave of her magic wand, the fairy changed the pumpkin into a wonderful golden coach.
Now bring me 6 white mice from the kitchen,
the godmother said. Cinderella did as she was told. Waving her wand again, the fairy godmother changed the mice into 6 gleaming white horses to pull the coach. Cinderella rubbed her eyes in amazement. Then Cinderella looked down at her old ragged clothes.
Oh dear,
she sighed. How can I go to the ball in this old dress? For the 3rd time, her godmother waved her magic wand. In a trice, Cinderella was wearing a lovely white ball gown trimmed with blue silk ribbons. There were jewels in her hair, and on her feet were dainty glass dancing slippers.
Now off you go,
said her fairy godmother, smiling.
Just remember one thing.
The magic only lasts until midnight. So Cinderella went off to the ball in her sparkling golden coach. In the royal palace, everyone was enchanted by the beautiful girl in the white and blue dress.
Who is she?
They whispered. The prince thought Cinderella was the loveliest girl he had ever seen. May I have the honor of this dance? He asked, bowing low. All the other girls were jealous of the mysterious stranger. Cinderella danced with the prince all evening. She forgot her fairy godmother's warning until dong, dong, dong. The clock began to strike midnight. Dong, dong, dong. Cinderella ran from the ballroom without a word. Dong, dong. In her hurry, she lost one of her glass slippers. Dong, dong. The prince ran out just as the lovely girl slipped out of sight. I don't even know her name, he sighed. When Cinderella's sisters arrived home from the ball, they could talk of nothing but the beautiful girl who had danced with the prince all evening.
You can't imagine how annoying it was, they cried. After the wretched girl left in such a hurry, he wouldn't dance at all.
Cinderella hardly heard their complaining. Her head and her heart were whirling with memories of the handsome prince who had held her in his arms. Meanwhile, the prince was determined to find the mysterious beauty who had stolen his heart. The glass slipper was the only clue he had. The girl whose foot will fit this slipper shall be my wife, he said. So the prince set out to search the kingdom for his bride. A royal messenger carried the slipper on a silk cushion. Every girl in the land wanted to try on the slipper. But although many tried, the slipper was always too small and too dainty. At last, Prince came to Cinderella's house. Each ugly sister in turn tried to squeeze her foot into an elegant slipper, but it was no use. Their feet were far too big and clumsy. "Do you have any other daughters?" the prince asked Cinderella's father. "One more," he replied. "Oh no," cried the sisters. "She is much too busy in the kitchen." But the prince insisted that all the sisters must try the slipper. Cinderella hung her head in shame. She did not want the prince to see her in her old clothes. But she sat down and tried on the dainty slipper. Of course, it fitted her perfectly. The prince looked at Cinderella's sweet face and recognized the girl he had danced with. "It is you," he said. "Please be my bride, and we shall never be parted again." How happy Cinderella was! Her fairy godmother appeared and, waving her magic wand, dressed Cinderella in a gown fit for a prince. Then the prince led Cinderella home to the royal palace. Cinderella and her prince were married at the most magnificent wedding that anyone would remember. Kings and queens from many lands came to meet the new princess and wish her well. Even Cinderella's sister had to agree that she was the loveliest bride they have ever seen. And Cinderella and her prince lived happily ever after. Arthur's Tooth by Mark Brown. Finally, Arthur had a loose tooth. He wiggled it with his tongue. He wiggled it with his finger. He wiggled it all the time. One afternoon, while Arthur was wiggling his tooth during the math class, he heard a loud scream. Francine jumped up.
My tooth just fell out on my desk, she cried.
"Class, how many of you have lost a tooth?" asked Mr. Marco. Everyone but Arthur raised their hands. When Arthur got home, he didn't want any milk and cookies. "What's the matter, Arthur?" his mother asked.
I'm the only one in my class who still has all his baby teeth, he complained. Don't worry, said his sister, DW. Before you know it, all your teeth will fall out and you can get false teeth like Grandma Thora.
Arthur persuaded father to make a special dinner for him. Steak, corn on the cob, and peanut brittle. "I can't believe one little tooth can take so long to fall out," said father. The next day, Muffy brought in a whole jar of her teeth for show and tell.
I got $2 for each one, she said. One from my dad and one from my mom. I put it all in the bank to earn interest. I'm waiting for my investment to double. Not me, said Francine. I'm spending mine.
Later, the class saw a movie called Nasty Mr. Tooth Decay. Between the ages of 4 and 7, the announcer began, everyone begins to lose their deciduous or baby teeth.
Everyone except Arthur,
shouted Francine. The whole class laughed. Arthur slid down in his seat. He wiggled his tooth as hard as he could. In the cafeteria, Francine practiced her new tricks.
Look, she said. I can keep my teeth closed and still drink through a straw. And I can squirt water too. Everybody lined up for a squirting contest. Everybody except Arthur. babies with baby teeth can't squirt water.
By the next day, Arthur was convinced his loose tooth would never fall out. His friends tried to help. Buster brought carrots for Arthur's lunch. Sue Ellen showed Arthur how to put raisins over his teeth to make it look as if some were missing. The brain invented a special machine. It's a tooth remover, he explained. Just put your head here, in here. Even Pinky Barnes wanted to help. I can knock that tooth out in 1 second flat, he said. That night, Arthur spent a lot of time in front of the bathroom mirror. He got up very early in the morning to wiggle his tooth again. See how much looser it is, he told his parents. That's it, said his mother. You need professional help. You are going to the dentist today.
Going to the dentist? Asked Francine. Boy, do I feel sorry for you.
There were other patients waiting to see Dr. Sozio.
Sorry, said the nurse. We're running late. Have a seat.
Arthur, you were smart to bring a book, said Mother. Finally, it was Arthur's turn. I wish all my patients were as good as waiting as you are, said Dr. Sozio. How old are you now, Arthur?
7, said Arthur, and I still have all my baby teeth.
I was 8 before I lost my first tooth, said Dr. Sozio. Everyone is different.
Really? Said Arthur.
Dr. Sozio examined Arthur's loose tooth. This one should fall out very soon, he said. Just wait. Arthur got back to school just in time for recess.
Still have all your baby teeth? Francine asked. Then you can't be in the game. I'm the tooth fairy. Only people who have lost teeth can play.
If you are the tooth fairy, said Arthur, I think I'll keep all my teeth. I can't wait. He started over to the softball game.
Whoever I touch, said Francine, loses a tooth. She flapped her arms. The one who loses the most wins. Francine twirled around and touched Buster.
She twirled faster and touched Sue Ellen. Twirling even faster, she slipped and hit Arthur.
Sorry, Arthur, Francine said, but I told you, no babies allowed.
Arthur picked up his glasses. It's okay, he said. It's probably the nicest thing you've ever done for me.
What do you mean? Asked Francine.
Arthur just smiled.
Can't You Sleep, Little Bear? By Martin Waddell and Barbara Firth. Once there were 2 bears, Big Bear and Little Bear. Big Bear is the big bear, and Little Bear is the little bear. They played all day in the bright sunlight. When night came and the sun went down, Big Bear took Little Bear home to the bear cave. Big Bear put Little Bear to bed in the dark part of the cave. Go to sleep, Little Bear, he said, and Little Bear tried. Big Bear settled in the bear chair and read his bear book by the light of the fire. But Little Bear couldn't go to sleep. Can't you sleep, Little Bear? Asked Big Bear, putting down his bear book, which was just getting to the interesting part, and padding over to the bed. I'm scared, said Little Bear. Why are you scared, Little Bear? Asked Big Bear. I don't like the dark, said Little Bear. What dark? Said Big Bear. The dark all around us, said Little Bear. Big Bear looked, and he saw that the dark part of the cave was very dark. So he went to the lantern cupboard and took out the tiniest lantern that was there.
Big Bear lit the tiniest lantern and put it next to Little Bear's bed. "There's a tiny light to keep you from being scared, Little Bear," said Big Bear. "Thank you, Big Bear," said Little Bear, cuddling up in the glow. "Now go to sleep, Little Bear," said Big Bear, and he padded back to the bear chair and settled down to read the bear book by the light of the fire. Little Bear tried to go to sleep, but he couldn't. "Can't you sleep, Little Bear?" yawned Big Bear, putting down his bear book with just 4 pages to go to the interesting part, and padding over to the bed. "I'm scared," said Little Bear. "Why are you scared, Little Bear?" asked Big Bear. "I don't like the dark," said Little Bear. "What dark?" asked Big Bear. "The dark all around us." "But I brought you a lantern." "Only a teeny-weeny one, and there's lots of dark." Big Bear looked, and he saw that Little Bear was quite right. There was still lots of dark. So Big Bear went to the lantern cupboard and took out a bigger lantern. Big Bear lit the lantern and put it beside the other one. "Now go to sleep, Little Bear." And he padded back to the bear chair and settled down to read the bear book by the light of the fire. Little Bear tried and tried to go to sleep, but he couldn't. "Can't you sleep, Little Bear?" "I'm scared." "Why are you scared, Little Bear?" "I don't like the dark." "What dark?" "The dark all around us." "But I brought you 2 lanterns, a tiny one and a bigger one." "Not much bigger, and there's still lots of dark." Big Bear saw that Little Bear was right. Big Bear was very puzzled. All the lanterns in the world couldn't light up the dark outside. Big Bear thought about it for a long time, and then he said, "Come on, Little Bear." "Where are we going?" "Out." "Out into the darkness?" "Yes." "But I'm scared of the dark." "No need to be." And he took Little Bear by the paw and led him out of the cave into the night. And it was dark. "Ooh, I'm scared," Little Bear said, cuddling up to Big Bear. Big Bear lifted Little Bear and cuddled him and said, "Look at the dark, Little Bear." And the Little Bear looked. "I've brought you the moon, Little Bear, the bright yellow moon and all the twinkly stars." But Little Bear didn't say anything, for he had gone to sleep, warm and safe in Big Bear's arms. Big Bear carried Little Bear back into the bear cave, fast asleep, and he settled down with Little Bear on one arm and the bear book on the other, cozy in the bear chair by the fire. And Big Bear read the bear book right into the end. Just My Friend and Me by Mercer Mayer. I asked Mom if I could have a friend over, because I just don't want to play alone. There are so many things we can do, just my friend and me. First, we climb the apple tree. I could climb higher if I really wanted to. Then we play in my tree house. My friend says only babies use a ladder. Next, we play hide and seek. I hide so well that my friend won't ever find me. We like to play with my racing cars. They don't work very well in the water though. We like to play basketball too. I could get the ball if I really tried. Next, we play with my new baseball and my Louisville Slugger bat. My friend likes to hit the ball, but he doesn't like to chase it. Then, we have a jump rope contest. My friend jumps 100 times. I could do that, but sometimes I like to let my friend win. We sing swing on my swing set too. Next time, we will swing on separate swings. We take turns playing daredevil on my new bike. My friend tries to stand on the seat. It's only bent a little. I bet Dad can fix it when he gets home. My mom takes care of our cuts and bruises. My friend cries a lot. I only cry a little. After we finish playing, we pick up my toys and put them away. My friend says he will put away the comic book. When my friend's mom comes to pick him up, we say goodbye. We always have fun when it's just my friend and me. But sometimes it's great just to be all alone. My dad. He's alright. My dad. My dad isn't afraid of anything, even the big bad wolf. He can jump right over the moon and walk on tightrope without falling off. He can wrestle with giants or win the father's race on sports day easily. He's alright, my dad. My dad can eat like a horse, and he can swim like a fish. He's as strong as a gorilla and as happy as a hippopotamus. He's alright, my dad. My dad's as big as a horse and as soft as my teddy. He's as wise as an owl and deft as a brush. He's alright, my dad. My dad's a great dancer and a brilliant singer. He's fantastic at football, and he makes me laugh a lot. I love my dad, and you know what? He loves me, and he always will. The end.
다음으론 백설공주란 책을 영어로 읽어보겠습니다. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Once upon a time, a beautiful queen had a baby girl. The baby's skin was as white as snow, and she had beautiful black hair. The queen called her Baby Snow White. But soon, the queen died, and the king married again. The new queen was beautiful, but she was very wicked. She had a magic mirror. Every day she asked it, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And every day the mirror said, "You, queen, are the fairest of them all." Snow White grew up and she looked more beautiful every day. One day, when the queen went to her mirror, it said, "Snow White is the fairest of them all." The queen was very angry. She didn't want to live with anyone more beautiful than herself. She called her huntsman and said, "Take Snow White into the forest and kill her." So the huntsman took Snow White into the forest. They went on and on all day, but he could not kill her. She was too beautiful. "Run away," he said. "The queen wants to kill you. You must never come back. If you do, you will die." Snow White ran away into the forest. Soon, she came to a little house. She couldn't run away anymore, so she opened the door and went in. In the house, she saw a table with 7 little chairs. Then she saw 7 little beds. "These beds are so little," said Snow White. "Whoever could sleep in them?"
Snow White was so tired that she went to sleep on bed. Soon, the little man who lived in the house came back. There were 7 dwarfs who worked in the mines. They saw Snow White sleeping.
What is this beautiful girl doing in our house?
They asked. Suddenly, Snow White woke up. Who are you? Said Snow White. We are the 7 dwarfs, said the biggest of the dwarfs. Snow White told them that the wicked queen wanted to kill her and that she had run away. The dwarfs looked at one another. Then the biggest of the dwarfs said, You must stay here. You will be safe in this house. The dwarfs told Snow White that she must never talk to anyone who came to the door. Back at the castle, the queen went to her mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? She asked. And the mirror said, Snow White is the fairest of them all. The queen was very angry. She put on some old clothes and went into the forest. There she found the little house. The dwarfs were out at work, so the queen knocked on the door. Do you want to see my beautiful ribbons? She asked. Snow White opened the door to look at the ribbons. At once, the queen put a ribbon round Snow White's neck so that Snow White could not breathe. When the dwarfs came back and found Snow White, they took the ribbon off and put her to bed. Soon, she woke up. They told her that she must never open the door to anyone ever again. But the next time the queen looked into the mirror, it said, Snow White is the fairest of them all. The queen was very angry again. I will kill Snow White once and for all, she said. Once again, the queen put on old clothes and went to the little house. This time, she had some beautiful combs. When she came to the house, she knocked on the door. The dwarfs told me not to talk to anyone who comes to the door, said Snow White. Then I will put a comb by the door and go, said the queen. When the queen had gone, Snow White took the comb and put it in her hair. The comb had poison on it, and Snow White fell asleep. When the dwarfs came back, they looked after Snow White and made her well again. The queen didn't go to her magic mirror for some time, but then one day she asked the mirror, Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? And the mirror said, Snow White is the fairest of them all. The queen was angrier than ever. She went out to find Snow White one last time. Snow White was making the beds. This time the door was open a little and Snow White saw a woman with some apples. A beautiful apple for a beautiful girl, said the woman. Snow White went to the woman and took an apple. As soon as Snow White bit the apple, she fell and died. When the dwarfs came back, they tried to help her, but it was too late. Snow White could not be woken. The dwarfs were very sad. After a time, they put Snow White in a glass coffin on a hillside. She looked as if she was sleeping. One day, a prince came by. He saw Snow White lying in the coffin and fell in love with her. The prince opened the glass coffin and kissed the Snow White. The kiss woke her. She saw the prince and fell in love at once. Will you marry me? Asked the prince. I will, said Snow White. Very soon, Snow White and the prince were married, and everyone came to see. The wicked queen was there too. When she saw Snow White, she was so angry that she ran away and was never seen again. And Snow White and the prince and all the 7 little dwarfs lived happily ever after. This is the end of the story. Good night, little ones. Have a sweet dream. Little Beauty by 앤서니브라운. Once upon a time, there was a very special gorilla who had been taught to use a sign language. If there was anything he wanted, he could ask his keepers for it by using his hands to sign. It seemed that he had everything he needed. But he was sad. One day, he signed to his keepers, "I want a friend." There were no other gorillas at the zoo. At first, the keepers didn't know what to do. Then one of them had an idea. They gave him a little friend called Beauty. "Don't eat her," said one of the keepers, but the gorilla loved Beauty. He gave her milk and honey, and they were happy. They did everything together. They were happy for a long time, until one night they watched a film together. The gorilla became more and more upset, and then very angry. The keepers rushed in. "Who broke the television?" said one. "We'll have to take Beauty away now," said another. The gorilla looked at Beauty. Beauty looked at the gorilla. Then she started to sign. "It was me. I broke the television." Everyone laughed. And do you know what happened? Beauty and the gorilla lived happily ever after.